So hey guys, so somehow I deleted the original intro that I made to this vlog. So welcome to another vlog. This is going to be a reading new releases / hyped books, and I actually am filming this way after I finished all these books. So I've actually finished another 2 or 3 books, I think, since I filmed this intro. Or before I filmed this intro. But I actually did end up returning, I believe, 2 of the physical books or actually 3 of the physical books I read. And then one of them that I ended up returning, I ended up purchasing on Kindle so I could read it that way. And the other 2, I just felt like I didn't need to keep. So I actually only have 3 physical books in front of me that I'm going to be reading in this video. And when you see these clips, I haven't read these books yet. I will have just been starting to read them. So I'm going to tell you guys the ones that I am intending to read in this video, or what I was intending to read at the time. So the first book that I started out with, which literally came out, I believe, the day I filmed the intro, was The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden, and this came out October 1st. And I start out with reading this one, and this was like the newest release that came out. And then the next book I wanted to read was, I'm going to have to go back to the cover, this is the one that I decided to purchase on Kindle because I had originally bought the physical copy, but then I decided to just get it on Kindle because it was easier to read that way, and that is the second book in the Assistant to the Villain series, which is Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maher. And I really wanted to read the second book because, like I said, I had just finished the first one at the end of September, so I really wanted to read the second book in the series, so I wanted to add that. And also, it was a recent release. It had came out back in August, which is only like not even 2 months. Or kind of like 2 months old, I guess, but still, it's a new release technically. And then the next book I wanted to read, so then there were some physical books I wanted to get to. So these are the only physical books that I still own that I included in this vlog. So I wanted to also read a romance. And this book was getting a lot of hype as well, which is Out on a Limb by Hannah Boehm-Young. So I wanted to include this one and see if I could find another, or finally find a 5-star romance, because I was in a romance rut for a while of not finding like a 5-star romance. So we'll see if this one is or not. And then the next book I wanted to read, because I pretty much figured out my order of what I wanted to read. So the next book that I read was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This book was also getting a ton of hype. Sorry, the lighting just changed on my lights. Sometimes it does that. And I read this on my Kindle as well. So I read quite a few books on my Kindle. I think I read 3 books on Kindle in this. And this one is like a paranormal, dark fantasy romance. So I really wanted to read some type of fantasy, because honestly, I didn't really get to read that much fantasy this month, pretty much at all. So and then I also wanted to read another romance, and this one was getting some hype as well. So I wanted to read The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. This was also my first book by this author, and Hannah Boehm-Young's, and also my first book by Hannah Boehm-Young. And I wanted to see what the hype was about this. This one is about like 2 exes that have to go to their best friend's wedding, and they're both like the best. She's the maid of honor and he's the best man, and they have to work together obviously to get the wedding to be a success. Out on a Limb is about like the guy obviously has a handicap and he has a prosthetic leg, and she has a deformed hand. And they, like, you know, it's not just about their deformities, it's about like their love for each other. So and then the next book that I read, I actually did not include this in the original intro because this was actually a new release that I wanted to sneak into this vlog. And I was like, I really wanted to read it at the time, so I was like, I might as well read a new release. So, and that is A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. And I had read this after I read The X-Files, and this one is described as like an epic novel. But you guys will see my thoughts as to what I thought of that one, obviously. And I ended up returning that one because I felt like I just didn't need to keep it. And then the next book I read after that, these books came out very recently, so these were both new releases. And this one came out in early September, and that is Immortal Dark by Tejas Gurma. I really wanted like a vampire dark academia book at the time. I was just like feeling darker books at that point, and what better to suit the mood that I'm in than a dark academia vampire book. And this was also a debut author, so I wanted to see if I liked her writing or not, and I ended up reading that. And then the last book that I read in this vlog was The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, and this is a very super hyped thriller right now. And I wanted to read it to see what all the hype was about. It takes place in a camp, and like all these kids are like disappearing from the camp, and they have to find out who is taking these kids because they haven't recovered any bodies, and they need to see whether or not they're still missing. It's just a very long thriller. It was like 475 pages, but you guys will see my thoughts on this. I actually ended up listening to quite a bit of this, and then I had to read the rest of it physically, but I found it pretty fast to read because the chapters were short. So you guys will get a little bit of a preview of what I ended up returning and what I ended up keeping, but these were the only 3 books I kept, and also because I think I can't return these at this point. But honestly, I kind of wish I would have read The God of the Woods on Kindle as well. I don't know why I didn't get it on Kindle originally, because like I usually don't buy thrillers. I usually just read them on Kindle if I can. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this vlog. I just wanted to say that I'm wearing my ACOTAR shirt that I got at Comic-Con a couple days ago, and it has all of the character names on it. Feyre and Rhysand, of course, Amren, Morrigan, Cassian, and Azriel. So I wanted to wear it today because it's actually really, really warm out today, and I've just been wearing all my Comic-Con merch like every chance I get the past like couple of days. So I hope you guys enjoy this vlog, and let me know if you guys end up reading any of these books, and let me know your thoughts on them. So let's get into it. Just wanted to let you guys know that I finished the first book that I read in this video, and that is Freida McFadden's The Boyfriend. Her books take like no time to finish, to be honest. I literally just finished it because I had like a good like hour and a half of reading time until I had to get ready to go out. So I read this from like 2:30 till like a little bit after 4, and I banged it out. And I liked it. It was fun. It was entertaining. What I love about Freida McFadden's books is that you're just going to have a fun, silly old time. This one didn't really creep me out, though. I was hoping it was, it was a little bit on the edge of your seat, but I found kind of most of it a little bit predictable. But I did like certain things about it, and certain things annoyed me. Basically, it's about this girl named, what is her name? Cindy. And she is looking for like a boyfriend online. She can't seem to find someone that she wants to be with. And she's best friends with a woman named Gretchen, and she's dating this guy named Randy. And then she's also friends with this other woman in her building named Bonnie. And tragically, something happens to one of these people, and she starts dating this guy named Tom, but she actually gets saved by this guy, but she finds out that this person is Tom later on, but she tries to go out on a date with this guy named Kevin, and it ends up going like really badly, and then Kevin constantly just like can't leave her alone. But the mystery man that saves her from this creepy guy, Kevin, turns out to be Tom. And you pretty much figured that out already. So like, it's not really that hard to figure out. But it kind of bounces between Tom's past of him growing up, and there's like there are some serial murders happening, and they think that it was someone in Tom's school, and Tom starts dating this girl named Daisy, and Tom's best friend is Slug. That's like Slug's name, a nickname, I mean. And I thought that one of the characters that we were talking about later on in their lives, you know, like it bounces between the past and the present, and that's usually what Freida McFadden does with her books, is that it's usually always the past and the present. And I thought that Slug was one of the characters that she was talking about later on, because one of these characters like really likes ants and like bugs, and that's how Slug was. Like when he was growing up, he always had a fascination with bugs. He was always like a weirdo like that. But it didn't turn out, I don't think that they was the same person, even though I thought it was. I'm like, he has to be this person. So overall, there were quite a bit of things that I did like. I do think that she just has like such absurd lines, but they're so, you kind of just like shake your head, but at the same time, it's like, it's still entertaining. And like, if I just want to have a silly, goofy time, I just read one of her books. So like, you're not going to read like the most amazing piece of literature like ever. So I gave this, I think I'm going to give it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I knew this wasn't going to be a 5-star. Again, I just needed like a silly good time. I wanted to start out the month with something fast and easy to read. I didn't want to use a lot of brain power. So yeah, I'm happy that I finished the first book already. So like I told you guys, the second book I am going to be picking up now. Let me just pull up the cover. Just takes a minute when I'm in the, because I did start this book, I just didn't continue with it because I was afraid that I was falling into a bit of a reading slump. And for some reason, I always feel like I'm falling into a reading slump the last couple of days of a month and the beginning of a new month. So I was like, I just need to pick something really fast paced. I don't know if I said this already in this video. So I was like, I need a thriller. It didn't really creep me out as much as some other of her books that have creeped me out in the past. Like The Housemaid is Watching was kind of a letdown, but then I ended up reading Never Lie, and that ended up being my favorite book from her that I've read so far, and that book really creeped me out. But this one like didn't really give me that thrillery, like super creeped out feeling. But it was still fun. It was still a fun, goofy time. So basically she tries to find, you know, someone to be with throughout the whole book. And Tom eventually becomes her boyfriend. And that's why it's called The Boyfriend, obviously. So, but it turns out that it's nothing that you thought. And there was a twist in the book that I did not see coming. But also, like, the more Freida McFadden books you read, the more you tie in like certain similarities to some of the twists that she has in her book. But I actually liked this twist more than the one that was in One by One, because if you've read One by One, it really reminded me of the twist in that book and who you find out who the killer is in that book. It's very similar to who the killer actually is in The Boyfriend. So anyway, the next book I'm going to be reading, I am actually going to be reading this on my Kindle as well. I literally have not stopped reading books on my Kindle. Like, I went from not using my Kindle at all because I was like, I have too many physical books to read, to reading everything on my Kindle. But I decided to return the physical copy of Apprentice to the Villain, and I ended up just purchasing it on my Kindle, and I'm going to be reading this book now. I'm super excited for this one. I still really want to read it. I just think at the time my brain was so fried I could not concentrate on reading this book after I had binged the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. I'm like, I read too much that day. Because even though I love reading and I wish I could finish like more than one book in a day, but usually if I do that, I'll have like 50 pages left of a Kindle read and like maybe 50 pages left of a physical book and then like a little bit left of like an audio book. That would be like the only way I could finish more than one book in a day. But I just needed a breather. So yeah, I'm going to be continuing reading this one. I'm super excited. I think this book is like 8 hours or 9 hours, but like I bought the physical book, but then I decided to buy this on Amazon so I could use my, oh, it says 11 hours. It's still not even that long. So I will just start reading that tonight. I actually have to get ready to see some of my friends. I have to do my makeup and stuff. I just really wanted to finish that book before I went out. So now I'm going to take like maybe another 8-hour break from reading. I feel like you need to take breaks a little bit sometimes because like you can become so obsessed with reading that almost like your brain just feels burnt out. But I feel like sometimes if I take like a longer break not reading and I come back to it later in the day, I really look forward to picking up my book because I'm like, oh my God, it's been all day since I haven't read. I'm so looking forward to it. So, or like if I have a break during the day and I want to finish a book, I'm going to do that. So, yeah, it was a little bit better taking gradual breaks lately. So, I will check in with you guys when I finish the second book. I don't know if I actually said the reason why I'm returning Apprentice to the Villain. I just could not get down with the font and the spacing in a book. Like, I mean, in this book, it's so cute and I love the cover and everything. I probably was going to return it when I finished it because I read the first one on Kindle anyway, but look at this layout. It just bothers me when the pages are like that, but like, and the font is just a little small, and I feel like these pages would just take me like forever to get through. I find if like, you know, the format is a little bit more uniform, then it makes it easier for me to read it. So I was like, if I just purchase it on Kindle, it's going to be the same format as every other book that I read on there. So I used my Amazon points to purchase it. So I got like $5 off. So I only paid like $7. So that was a lot better than like $13, which I thought was a little bit pricey. So yeah, I'll check in when I'm finished with it. Okay, so hey guys, so I just wanted to let you guys know that I finished book 2 in this video, which is Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maher. I don't know if I took any clips of me reading this one. I don't think I did. Sorry, not sorry. I think I was just really into this, and also like I was reading a little bit slower, but also like I didn't really have that much reading time yesterday because I did have like my winery trip with my girlfriends, and I only read like maybe less than 60 pages of this yesterday because I really just didn't have that much time of reading because I left at like 11 in the morning and I didn't get home until like 10 o'clock at night. So by the time I like sat down and read that night, I was exhausted that I just wanted to go to sleep. So I might have read like maybe a total of like 10 pages when I finally got into bed. I was like so exhausted. So anyway, this was really good. I really liked it. I think it's just such a fun series. So I don't really want to give too much away though, because I feel like it's going to be very spoilery if I say a lot more in this. Basically, Evie is just on the search for her mother, because a lot of things happen with her family in this book, and you get a lot more background about her brother and her mom, and just like things that you didn't know in the first book, and that's all I'm really gonna say. And also Tristan and Evie's romance grows in this book, and I just think it's like such an adorable slow burn in this. Like there's so much tension between them, but I like the tension between them because they have such good chemistry. And once they build up to finally kiss, I actually think I think that she does such a good job of waiting just up until the moment where you're like, okay, come on, can they kiss already? And you like feel that frustration as a character, as a reader, I mean, because like you just want them to kiss, because I think that their banter's hysterical. And she's now moved up from being his assistant to his apprentice because she really proved herself towards the end of the first book, and it's just like, it's just so funny, like, still having his staff of villains. I do think staff of villains, his staff for the villain, which is Tristan. I think I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5 stars. I still really enjoyed it. I think I liked the first half more so than the second half. I feel like the middle was a little bit slow, and then it definitely picked up towards the end. But I thought that the first one was a little bit better paced than this one, but I know like a lot of people say that this one is better. But I do think that this was really good for the second book in the series. I am really looking forward to the last book. And I do think that, you know, their fight of the king is growing in this as well. It still like so reminds me of Robin Hood and just like a spin-off of Robin Hood, but overall I really did enjoy it. We got like more of Lissa in this book, and Lissa's like not in it. Lissa is Evie's little sister, but she's not like an annoying kid. I think that she has just enough mischievousness and like naiveness to her to like make her like a really believable kid in the story, because like most people don't like kids in books because they think that they're like geniuses, and like the writers always write the children as like being too smart, which kids are fucking smart, let's not get it wrong. But like I think that she's so adorable in this book, and it's just fun. It's just a fun time. Like, don't take these books too seriously. I just think that they're a fun, entertaining, like funny time, because I think that her writing is hysterical too. There's not like one moment where I'm like cringing and I'm like, what does that mean? I just enjoy her writing like the entire time. I think she's a great writer. And I just think, you know, again, some books don't have to be taken so seriously, and I'm so glad that I finally got to these books, and this was another new release. So this one was like released like mid-August, so it's still a pretty recent one, and I really did enjoy it. So I really liked it. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say much more. I think I felt a little bit more, like just happy when I finished the first book, because I really liked the first book, I think even more so than this one. But it was still really good, and there were still some high stakes things that happen. They're not like too high stakes though, but you're still like interested in like the, in what Evie goes through as a character, and also Tristan's background and everything. I really hope in the third book is where they go into like, if she goes into like Tristan's backstory of like how he grew up to become the villain. I mean, we kind of already know why, but I want her to go like maybe into like a flashback or something of like a couple chapters of him as a child. And I think that would be really helpful. So anyway, the third book we are going to start in this video is actually my first physical book that I've read in like maybe a week or so, because I have just been reading Kindle reads lately. I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore and The Boyfriend, and I think I read, did I read I think I read Assistant to the Villain before that. So I read Assistant to the Villain, The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, The Boyfriend, and Apprentice to the Villain all on my Kindle, that I'm like, I think I need to throw like a physical book in there. And I really do want to read this. So this is going to be my first like hyped book in this video. Everybody is reading this right now, and a lot of people have been saying that this has been like one of their favorite romances. So I'm hoping to break my romance rut, because like I've told you guys, I have not found a 5-star true romance book since I think the end of June or July. But the last book that I found that was a 5-star romance for me was Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I absolutely adore that book. So I kind of find like I'm comparing like every single new romance that I read to that book, because that book was like perfection for me. I love that book so much. So I'm hoping Out on the Limb by Hannah Boehm Young is going to be successful. I'm thinking that this is probably going to be one of my favorite romances that I read recently, because honestly all the romances I've read I've given under 4 stars. So I just want something like is like 4 stars or better. So I'm really excited to read this. A lot of people have been reading this. I've been giving it great reviews. So this is the third book we're going into. I thought I would do a thriller, cozy, low stakes fantasy, and then a romance. So we can have 3 different genres for the start of October. And yeah, so I think that's a good way to end this, and I will check in with you guys when I finish this book. Bye. Okay, so hey there guys. So I just finished my 3rd book in this video, which was Out on a Limb by Hannah Boehm Young, and we found our 5-star read and also our 5-star romance. Yay! I haven't had a 5-star romance in I don't even know how long. I think, like I said, it's been at least 2 months. And no one has been able to dethrone Catherine Center's Hello Stranger. That book literally lives with me every single day. I love that book literally so much. Let me see when I actually read that book. I think it was the end of July. I don't know why I can't remember if it was the end of June or the end of July. Yeah, it was the end of July. And that was my last 5-star romance. So it's been like almost more than 2 months because we're still in the first week of October. Well, the first week of October basically passed, but this is like the first full week of October. But anyway, I freaking loved this book from beginning to end. I felt like I was teetering on like a 4.75 / a 5-star, but honestly, I feel like the reason why I gave this a 5-star is because this never lost the romance throughout the entire book. It was just such a beautiful, funny romance between Bo and Win, and I just absolutely loved this. Like, I know that something's a 5-star, especially a romance, when I'm smiling like an idiot throughout the entire book. I was literally smiling the entire time I was reading this book. And I feel like that's how I know. Now, there are some pretty smutty parts in this book. So if you're not a fan of smut, I don't know if you're going to love this book. And also, what is up with the cartoon books always having more smut than you think? Because you're like, oh, it's just like a wholesome romance between the two of them. But then there's some really sexual lines in this. But at the same time, I didn't think that the smut overtook this story. And, you know, so they hook up at the beginning of this book. And she ends up getting accidentally pregnant from Bo because they hook up at a Halloween party. And he has this prosthetic leg. And she asks him why he has this prosthetic. And she has like kind of a deformed hand. So they both have their own physical challenges, but also like I just loved the way that they made fun of everything, their chemistry, their banter together, and their love story was just so beautifully written. I am so obsessed with her writing. I feel like she really does remind me of Abby Jimenez's and Annabelle Monaghan's writing, but I feel like even more so than Abby Jimenez and Annabelle Monaghan is she can condense her like writing so well, and she writes these one-liners or also like just these paragraphs of amazing internal thoughts that just like get you, but also it's like it's not overkill and you don't feel like you're just reading like tons and tons and tons of internal dialogue. Like I love more heavy dialogue books. I'm that type of especially when it comes to romance books. I prefer my romance books to have more of a heavier dialogue. And I just loved it. It was hysterical. I was laughing so hard. And the reason why, like I didn't even say, is that the reason why I gave this a 5-star is because it never lost the sight of the romance and the core of the love story throughout this entire book. And that's what makes a romance a 5-star for me. Or if I like truly love the story, but again, it never loses sight of the romance, because like, again, I've been reading so many romance books that just didn't really hit this past month and the month before that. I'm like, where is the romance? Like, and I love that this starts out as them hooking up, and then it's like you're just waiting for them to be together again, but at the same time, there's so many beautiful romantic parts between them, because they decide to remain friends because they don't want to like ruin like their relationship of when they have a baby, or they're just like wanting to co-parent, and she ends up moving in with him so he can like take care of her a little bit more. But also, so then he's there for her during the pregnancy and when the baby is born and everything. And then they end up developing a romance. And it's just, I don't know why people have so much like hate towards the accidental pregnancy trope. It does not bother me in the slightest. And also, like, I haven't really read that many accidental pregnancy stories really that much at all. I don't think I've really read one. I'm looking at all the romance books that I own, and I don't think I have. The only one close to it is that the friend zone is where she's like dying to have a family, but she has like an illness where she really can't. And then you find out other things at the end. But anyway, I just loved this. But it like the accidental pregnancy trope does not bother me in the slightest. Like, it happens all the time in real life, so why does it bother people so much? Like, just because you were careful and you didn't get pregnant doesn't mean it's not going to happen to somebody else. So, I don't know. Like, why do you judge fictional characters for that? Like, it makes it a lot more realistic for me. So anyway, there was like parts of him asking her to dance, and my heart was like about to burst out of my chest when he asked her to dance in that scene, and they didn't even kiss in that part, and it was just so beautifully written that you just felt the love and the chemistry between both of them in that part. And then there's another part where they're just facing each other because they have to share a bed, and they end up cuddling with each other. And the way that she describes them, like cuddling, it's just like, you can eat this up. Like, this romance is just so beautiful. And then they get together, and then they kiss, and then like more of the romance happens. But I also love that they developed a friendship first, and then their romance. But like at the same time, like, you knew they were going to be together. And also what I really like about this too is this was probably one of the only romance books I've read where there is no third act breakup. And I was like, is it coming? And I was like, you know what? I really loved that, because she didn't follow the same formula. It's just like, again, you don't need that when the romance is strong enough between the two characters that you just want to read a romance, like a beautiful romance book. So anyway, I love this. I highly recommend this if you're looking for a good, fun time, because this was hysterical. There were some lines in this that I was laughing my ass off. I think it's just so funny. So I was so happy that I chose this as my funny prompt book for my TBR, and I loved it. It was such a great time. Okay, so now the fourth book we're going to go into in this video is that I am going to go back to my Kindle because I just can't help myself, but also I really, really, really do want to read this book because my next option was a romance, or I could have went into Immortal Dark, which is a vampire fantasy, but I really want to read this because a lot of people are reading this right now. So I'm going to go into another hyped book, and this came out, I believe, like at the beginning of September, so this also counts as a new release, and that is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and this is a dark fantasy romance. It's like a dark fantasy paranormal romantasy, and I cannot wait to read this because like so many people are raving about it. There's already a sequel announced, so this is going to be my next read. I'm probably going to start it now and read it a little bit because I really do want to read it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't get any reading clips of me reading this again. I think I was just too into the story because I could not put this book down. And that's when you know that something's a 5 stars, that you literally cannot wait to go back to reading it. And some of the other romances, like I said, I was reading last month, I didn't get that feeling of being like, I have to read this. Like, I don't want to do anything else but read this. So I'm going to go into Phantasma, and then I think after that, we're going to go into The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. It's literally sitting on my bedstand because I actually get my Spotify listening hours back. So I'm definitely going to read this afterwards because I do want to see if... And also, this is another hyped book, and it's in this video. So I'm excited to read that. And I also want to see if that's another 5-star, because I feel like that's another possible 5-star. And also I get my Spotify listening hours back, I believe tomorrow, because it says I have a day left, but sometimes it says a day and then it says you get your listening hours back in 12 hours, like the next day. So sometimes you have to wait a whole ass another day. So I was like, I would rather start this book and then I can start listening to that book on Spotify so that I can get a head start on that too. I actually am currently listening to another audiobook. I finally started my first Kristen Hanna book because there's actually 2 books on Kindle Unlimited from Kristen Hanna that come with the audiobook as well. And that's Winter Garden and Homefront. So I believe I'm reading Winter Garden. I can't even remember which one it is. Is that the one I'm reading? Hold on. And I'm really, really enjoying it so far. I definitely think she's an author that I want to read most of her books by already. I mean, Night Road. I'm reading Night Road. So I'm listening to that. I'm on page 130. And so far, I'm really, really, really enjoying it. So I finally just wanted to listen to something that I've never read from her before. So I was just really excited to listen to it. I'm just rambling right now. I'm not even making sense. So yeah, I will check in with you guys when I finish Phantasma. So bye. Okay, so hey there guys. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I just finished my 4th book in this video, which is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I just returned it on Kindle Unlimited, so I'm just showing you guys a picture of it on Goodreads. And I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I freaking loved this book. I thought it was fantastic. I loved the magic in this book. I loved the romance. I loved the smut. I loved everything about this book. From beginning to end, I just thought it was fantastic. And like, I love how everything got revealed towards the end. And I liked that the trials built up till the end. And then there was some jaw-dropping stuff that happened at the end. And I just freaking loved it. I think that this book is so worth the hype. But I do see why it's a combo of Kingdom of the Wicked and Caraval. And I do love those trilogies so much. I really do. But this book just, I don't know. I loved the banter. I loved Blackwell. Oh my God. But I also really loved Ophelia as the main character. It was just so good. I really, really loved it. So I'm just riding on this high of reading 2 5 stars in a row. I really thought they were both really, really fantastic books. I really loved Out on a Limb and I really loved Phantasma. So I guess I'm having a really good reading week so far. And I finished most of it on Kindle Unlimited on my Kindle. But I actually just listened to the last 40 minutes because I only had 40 minutes left. And the audiobook was only $7 on Audible. So I was like, I'll just pick up the audiobook because I didn't really have too much time while I was doing my makeup because I'm about to go return another book. But I really loved it. It was so good. Really, really loved it. Highly recommend. I just thought the way that she writes smut is actually just so good. And, you know, she's not afraid to use, like, certain words to describe, like, a woman's, you know, hoo-ha. Let's just say that. And it's just so good. But just be warned, it is very smutty. But I think that she balances out the smut very well. I think that this was even better balanced than A Fate Inked in Blood was. I felt like A Fate Inked in Blood took a little bit too long to get into the smut, but this was just such a good balance of the romance, the smut, and also the action and the fantasy and the magic in this was just great. And the trials were so good too. And I really liked in this book that nobody was ever really truly fully good, but you were still rooting for Ophelia and for Blackwell. It's just like it takes a lot where the main characters aren't fully good people, but they do it for the right reasons, but also like you just want them to be together like so badly. So I think that this was an incredible start to the Phantasma series, and I'm so excited for the next book coming out in April of 2025. They already announced it, and it's already on my list to read in April. I'm so excited for that book. So I loved it. I thought it was great. So the next book, like I said, we are going to be reading is The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. This is actually, like I said, on Spotify, so I'm able to start listening to it. So I'm glad I finished Phantasma before I go into this one. I actually already started it last night on Spotify Premium because, like I said, I got my listening hours back last night finally. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I think it's really funny. And then we are going to be adding one new release into this video. So I guess I'm going to give you guys my thoughts of 8 books, which is kind of a lot, but hopefully we'll get through the rest of them this weekend and this coming week. I would like to read them before Comic-Con because Comic-Con's next weekend. So I'm trying to read as many books as possible before that. So we're going to be reading quite a few physical books right now. So the next one I really want to read is A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. This is actually getting a lot of hype right now as well, but this book literally just came out like a week ago. I think it came out October 3rd. So this one is a very, very new release, and I was kind of intrigued by it. And also look at the edges. Like, are you freaking joking me? I'm so glad that I got this edition rather than getting it in Book of the Month. But this was a Book of the Month available in, I think, September. But I ended up not getting a Book of the Month in September. And I redeemed my Book of the Month for an audiobook because I really just didn't want to add any more books. But then I ended up getting Books of the Month this month, and I'm really excited to read those as well. But I really do want to read this one after. And also, this is a standalone fantasy, so I'm like, sign me up. It's only like 324 pages, so this is going to be such a fast, quick read, depending on if I like it or not. But it's a very new release, and it's very super hyped right now because it's like a Good Morning America pick, and like a lot of people are talking about it. So I wanted to fit that book into this video as well. So I will check in with you guys when I finish the X-Files. So bye. And again, I didn't get any reading clips of me reading Phantasma. I don't know why I keep on forgetting to film reading clips, but I think you guys just want to know my thoughts on the books. And since I have so many books to talk about in this video, it's already going to be super long anyway. So yeah, bye. So hey there guys, so I just wanted to update you guys that I just finished The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. So this is now my second physical book that I've finished this month. I think I finished 3 Kindle reads and 2 physical books, and they were both romances. And I really enjoyed this book. I thought this was great. I really enjoy Jessica Joyce's writing. I just didn't get that 5-star feeling from this book like I did with Out on a Limb, but this was very, very close. I think I'm going to rate it a 4.65, and usually I don't do like in between like 4.25 and 4.5 or like 4.5 and 5-star. If I do that, I'll do like 4.75, but I feel like 4.65 is it's still really high rating. I really enjoyed it. I just didn't get that, exhilarating feeling where like you're basically like your heart is bursting out of your chest when you're reading a 5-star, and it just like you honestly feel high. If you've ever gotten like high on like bud or something, that's how it feels when you're reading a 5-star. And it was still really good. I really enjoyed oh my God, why can't I remember their name? Georgia and Eli's relationship, but I felt like just the romance could have like went just a little, I don't know. It felt like a very real romance between them, but I don't know. I didn't get the same feeling as I did with Out on a Limb, but I still thought this was really good. Um Basically they have to be like the best man and the maid of honor at their best friends' weddings. Like, because all of them are in the same friend group, but two of their best friends are getting married. And or maybe just the groom is their best friend because he like claims that he's their best friend, like both of their best friends, but like really their best friends, like Eli and Georgia are best friends. And that's what I really liked about this, is that they had like their own friend group. They weren't like completely, I really hate sometimes when some romance books are just like the female character is like completely isolated and doesn't have any like friends of her own. Like the only person she's completely, involved with and is like her only friend is pretty much the person that she's with. And sometimes, I don't know, I just feel like that's so isolating to read about sometimes, but I understand, like, some romances are like that. But I just liked that they had their group of friends. So, anyway, they have to come together to, plan and help, their friends get married. But, something goes disastrously wrong. But also, they are not together. They have to work together because they're both exes. And it was just so funny the way it was written. There were some really funny parts. I just had a great time. It's still a very enjoyable read. And then obviously, since they're spending all this time together, they realize how much they miss each other. And, they have to spend like the same night in a room. And then, they start developing a romance again, but they already were in love with each other. It's just like very second chance romance. And I don't really read a lot of second chance romance, and I realize that I really like it. So, yeah, it was great. I had a really good time reading this, and I'm so glad that I found some really good romance reads this month because I was starting to lose a little hope. So I think it was a very good idea for me to read new romance authors that I've heard so many good things about. So I really enjoy Hannah Boehm Young's writing, and I really love Jessica Joyce's writing as well. I really do want to read You with a View now by Jessica Joyce. I actually wanted to pick up that book at Barnes & Noble, but the one that I found, like the side of it was ripped. So I'm like, and that was the only copy that they had, and I was like, can I get like a bit of a discount on this? She's like, well, I can only give you 20% off. And I'm like, literally the side is ripped. Like, but whatever, it's fine. I didn't end up buying it, but I'm probably going to buy it the next time I'm there. I might exchange this book for that one just because romance books are so dang expensive now. This is $20. So it's not cheap, but I wanted to buy it because I wanted to read it, obviously, but we'll see if we keep that. We're obviously keeping Out on a Limb because I freaking loved that book. So then the next book we are going to go into, like I said, is A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. I had basically no interest in this book until I saw like, a couple of reviews about it. And then for some reason I was just like super drawn to it. And I think I said this before, but this is actually a standalone fantasy. As of right now, no other books have been like announced in the series. It doesn't say like book one in like a certain fantasy series. And this is an epic Asian fantasy. So I'm very excited to read this. It's also very short though. It's only 324 pages. But like I said, this book came out, I think it was like October 3rd or something. It was like the first week of October. So this is brand spanking new. So like I said, this is the newest release that came out besides The Boyfriend. So I am very excited to read this. And again, the spine is absolutely, I mean, the sprayed edges are absolutely stunning. I just want to read the little blurb inside. It says, inspired by the legend of Zishi, maybe it's Zishi because it's an X. Sorry if I'm butchering that name. It starts with an X. One of the famous four beauties of ancient China, A Song to Drown in Rivers is an epic novel steeped in myth about womanhood, war, sacrifice, and love against all odds as the fate of two kingdoms hangs in the delicate balance. So, you know what's so funny is that I did pull this other prompt in my TBR video. Oh, and by the way, I finished 2 prompts in the first 12 days of the month because it's October 12th right now. So we finished 5 books in actually 11 days because Saturday just started. It's midnight right now. And I finished my funny book prompt, which was Out on a Limb. And then I also finished the book I just bought, which was The X-Vows. But also this book could count for that because I literally just got this book after The X-Vows. But when I picked the prompt, The X-Vows and some of the other books that I had just picked in that video were all books I recently had bought at the same time as The X-Vows. But then this is the newest book I've bought besides 2 other ones. Excuse me. And some of my books of the month that I just got. But anyway, super excited to read this. What else was I going to say about this book? Oh, yeah, that's basically it. So I'm super excited for this. I'm going to try and work on reading some of my other prompts, but I don't know if I'm going to get them done. The only other one I really want to read is a book I can finish in a day, and that was a thriller read. So, yeah, but that's not going to be in this video. I might read it on Sunday. I'm definitely starting this book tomorrow, but then I might binge that book Sunday and then just read it all that day. But I really want to get halfway through this. But I'm really excited for. Oh yeah, so there's no other books announced in the series, and I googled it, and it said there was no plans of the author returning to these characters in this story. But since it's so short, I'm a little worried about whether or not it's going to have a good ending, because some people say with short fantasy books, unless they're part of a series or they're the first book in the series, sometimes they're not really that great the way that they end. But I don't want to prejudge it before I read it. So I'm just really excited to read it. So I'll check in with you guys when we finish this one. So hey guys, I just wanted to tell you guys that I just finished A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang, and I really don't know how I feel about this book. It wasn't really a fantasy, and I wouldn't even call this an epic novel like it says, because it's really not. This was a historical tragedy, I feel because I did not expect what happened in the second half of the book, pretty much the last 60-ish pages, honestly, because honestly the first 200 pages of this book I was waiting for something to happen. And then, everything kind of happened within the last 50 or 60 pages. But I don't know if it was a good way, because it wasn't. But at the same time, there was a war, but, it was only, maybe not even 10 pages of, the last 50 pages of the book. And then the last, 30 pages were just so sad. So I wouldn't really say this is an epic novel at all, to be honest. And also I feel like the message of this book was the romance was even greater than like our like mortal lives. Like it also like will happen in the afterlife, because like there's, you know, um references to the afterlife in this book. But basically this book is about like this woman named Zishi. Yeah. And this man, Fanley, has to train her to take her to this other kingdom. And the king in the other kingdom is called Fachi, I believe. Or Fushi. I keep on fucking up their names. But basically the other king is like a enemy king, and she has to go to his kingdom to marry him, or be like one of his concubines. So because apparently it's supposed to like, you know, bring peace to the other kingdom, but like this enemy king doesn't really care, like, but it does eventually, like, as she, you know, sways the king more, to like win his affections and everything, it does sway him more to not attack like this one kingdom. So but Zishi has always been in love with Fanley, but she can't be with him because she has to marry the king. But like her and Fanley never end up actually being together in the mortal world. It kind of happens more towards the end, but it's like so sad. But I can't really like say anymore, or I'm gonna like ruin it or spoil it. But I am kind of struggling on what I want to rate this book. I think I'm gonna give it a 3.65. I think it's a little better than a 3-star, but I don't think it's a 4-star, because it wasn't really meeting my expectations of what an epic novel should be. I feel like this was kind of just a tragedy. So it kind of like reminded me a bit of Romeo and Juliet as well. And also, like, she's a really, really beautiful writer. Like, I really did enjoy her writing a lot. It flowed very well. I was just waiting for like more to happen. I thought it would just be more so like slow burn, forbidden romance between her and Fanley, but there was never really like any kissing. It was more so they were just never going to be together because she had to be with the king. But, you know, obviously, like sometimes, or back then, you know, during then, like usually, like women couldn't, you know, kiss or even like be with a man unless they were married. So maybe that's why there wasn't really like forbidden romance, but it was more so just like them glancing at each other. There was never actually any real kissing involved. And this is classified as a historical fantasy, but also a romantasy. And I'm like, this is not a romantasy. I would just say this is a historical tragedy. So, yeah, I think a 3.65. But I'm now, after reading like the last 50 pages, because honestly, like the first 200 pages, I was kind of like getting a little bored, and I was like, okay, where is this going? Now I don't like regret reading this, because like before the ending, I was only going to give this like a 3 stars, because I was like, I really don't know what's gonna make me like this book more. Because again, I was like pretty bored within the first 200 pages, but then like more things started happening. And also, this book is so stunning, but like I don't think I'm gonna be keeping this book. I think I'm gonna be returning it. And what's so funny is that my other friend was like, when I bought this book with him like last week at Target, because I just bought it for this video, he was like, well, the faster you read it, the faster you can return it. And it's like he was right, because I don't think I want to keep this because it just, I don't know, it just made me so sad. And it's not like, I get so emotional over some books because I love the book like so much and I love like the love story and like stuff like that like really hit me in a book. But this, I don't know. It was good. I still thought it was a good book to read, but like I'm just like struggling with like recommending it or like my thoughts on it because it was very sad at the end. So, okay, so moving on. The next book we are going to be going into is Immortal Dark by Tigist Gurma. Very unique name. I actually already started the audiobook of this because it's included in Spotify Premium. So I'm already on page 120. I'm on chapter 22, and this one I am really enjoying. This is like a dark academia vampire school fantasy, and I'm really, really enjoying this so far. I actually think that this might be even better than An Education in Malice, because honestly, like, I haven't really read that much dark academia, and I would love to read more, so I'm really excited to see where this book goes. Because so far I'm really invested. I think that this is definitely more fun than A Song to Drown Rivers, because I didn't think that book was going to be so tragic, but so far I'm really enjoying this, so I'm excited. And this is her debut novel, which is freaking awesome because I'm really, really liking it so far, and I think she's a good writer as well. So we got some good female writers in this. Also, I was trying to start A Talent for Murder by Peter Swanson. Side note, I was going to try and binge that book tomorrow and then continue reading Immortal Dark, but I could not get into that book. Like, I started it yesterday at my best friend's place, and why is it that male thriller writers make the female character like so sexual? Maybe I do have to, or sexualize her. Maybe I do have to read the first two books in that series because I got that book as my first book of the month and I had no idea it was part of a series. And some people get mad if book of the month features books that are like a third book in a series or like a continuation of a series. It's different when they feature like a first book in the series, obviously, but like after that it's like, what the fuck? So people say like you can read it as a standalone though, but I feel like I might have to read the first two books to like get a feel for his writing, but also like see like why fuck the characters are like this. Maybe I'll get a better understanding of it. But like right now, I really can't read that book. So I think I'm gonna go into Murder in the Family. I believe that's by Kara Hunter. I think that's her name. I'm probably totally wrong. But I might binge that book tomorrow because it's really not going to take me that long, and I would like to binge a book in a day. I mean, A Song to Drown Rivers, I think I read like 150 or 60 pages of it today, so I read a lot of it today. Actually, I think I only read another, 100 and something pages. But yeah, so that's it. I'm gonna go because this clip is way too long. So I will update you guys when I finish Immortal Dark. Okay, so hey guys, I just wanted to let you guys know that I literally just finished Immortal Dark by Tigist Gurma. I finished this in like 2 days. So I had started the audiobook on I think Saturday or Sunday, and I just listened to it then, and then I started reading it physically yesterday, and then I just binged it now because I think I only had I had like 115 pages left. It took me a little bit longer than I thought because I kept on falling asleep. Because I'm getting shit sleep lately. But anyway, I'm going to rate this a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm just going to give it a 4 stars. Because I actually really enjoyed this, but it was very confusing to follow, like, which character was which. There wasn't really that many, like, distinct characteristics about each character, but I really did like the main character of this book, and her name is Kidan. And basically, she has to go to this vampire school in order to fulfill this kind of like vampire debt that she has in order to survive, pretty much, because if she didn't go to this school and participate in the year, and also she can't fail, then there will be like serious consequences. So the main vampire that she ends up falling for is Sueños or something like that. Is that his name? Sueños Sagad. There's such good names in this book. But I didn't really feel like the intense connection between the two of them, but I think that was kind of the point, because Sueños, you're not really am I saying that right? I keep on saying it wrong. Sueños, yes. You keep on wondering if you can trust him or not. And then there's like parts where like you doubt if she can trust him and all of that. So I did really like that. But basically it centers around Kidan trying to find her sister June, because she was taken by this other group of enemy vampires called the Nesari or Nesfari. I think they're called the Nesfari. And she also needs the help of other students in the vampire school to help her find her sister. But also there's like betrayals that happen along the way with certain students that she can't trust. And then there's also murders that happen. So I thought that this was very intriguing. It was just, again, it was a little all over the place, but eventually it did come together. And I did really enjoy the overall story. I thought it was a good time. So I am definitely going to be reading the second book when it comes out. And this was also a debut novel, and I think this was very good for a debut novel. And I'm really excited to read more of her writing. I think her writing is very good. There wasn't like one part where I was like, what the fuck? Or I like cringed or anything. I thought it was really, really good. And that like means a lot for me to like the writing. It's like sometimes I just take a step back and I'm like, what? But this was really good. I really enjoyed it. And this was like exactly what I was craving right now. And also I'm officially kicking off my Halloween TBR with this book. I had already read The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden and Phantasma in this video, which were already on my Halloween TBR for October. But now I am just in full-fledged October Halloween mode TBR. Full-fledged Halloween TBR mode. How hard is that to say? So this was the first book that I read for that, and I finished it, and I thought it was really good. So again, I'm reading some really good books in this video, and I just wanted to say I did finish a really, really short novella before I read Immortal Dark, because I just needed something that would lift my mood a little bit after I read A Song to Drown Rivers, because that book was just so incredibly sad. And I ended up returning it, and I might end up returning this as well, even though it is a beautiful book. It really is. I don't know if I want to save it, but it's just like, if I don't have the room for something, I'm not going to keep it. And I would want to display this. I might just throw it back on my shelf up there and see if I want to display it for the rest of the month, because it looks so good on my Halloween shelf. But I did finish The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie by Frida McFadden, and I just read this super quickly on my Kindle. It's a satirical novella by Frida McFadden. It's literally only like 100 pages or like 107 pages or something on Kindle. It's such a quick read. It only took me like 2 hours to read. And it was just so funny. It was making fun of like all of her other books. I just wanted to say really quickly that I did end up reading another book in this video, and it is a relatively new release. I think it only came out in August, so it's not like it's really that old. It's like 2 months old. It's not new, but it still was out this year. Like, and anything that's a new release is something that came out in 2024 or something that came out within the past couple of months. So it was just a really fun time. And then after I read that, so now I've read 2 Freida McFadden books this month. And now I'm just really in the mood to read her books again. So I might end up binging another one of her thrillers before this month is over. I'm thinking about reading The Teacher, possibly on Comic-Con weekend, because I'm still struggling as to what I want to read on my Kindle on Comic-Con weekend, because I'm not going to be able to have time to finish a physical book then. But anyway, that is not the point of this video. We are now going to go into the last book that I have to read for this video. So we are now on our 8th book for this video, or 7th. I am not keeping track. I'm pretty sure this is our 8th book. Hold on. The Boyfriend, Apprentice to the Villain, Immortal Dark, A Song to Drown Rivers, Phantasma, Out on a Limb, and The X-Files. Yes, this is our 8th book, and that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I actually did start the audiobook of this because it is available on Spotify Premium as well, so I'm on page 62 already. And I'm enjoying this so far. I just really want to see what the hype is about with this. I'm so in the mood for like a mystery thriller right now. I'm just so, like, my Halloween TBR could not roll around at a better time, because I'm really not in the mood for romance right now. I'm really not in the mood for fantasy. I just want dark thriller, dark academia, vampire books. Give it to me. I'm like so excited for these books right now. And these are exactly like what I would be in the mood for. So I'm actually technically kind of mood reading too. But I'm enjoying this so far. We'll see where it goes. I just don't know why this book is so long. Like, everybody says, like, you know, thriller books are usually not 475 pages. But I'm definitely going to finish this before Comic-Con. I just don't know if it's going to take me either 2 days or 3 days, because I'm obviously going to read it all day tomorrow and all day Thursday, and I'm going to listen to a lot of the audiobook too. So we will see how far we get. I probably will be able to finish it by Friday. So yeah, that's about it. I don't want to ramble anymore because I keep on feeling like I'm talking too long in these clips, but I've just been so in the mood to read lately because it's been so cold out the past couple of days, and it's like, it makes you like so hungry to read. Like, it's just the perfect weather. Once it gets colder outside, all you want to do is read. So yeah, I will check in back with you guys when I finish this one, and then we will rank all the books. So bye. Okay, so hey there guys, so I just wanted to let you guys know that I just finished The God of the Woods by Liz Moore last night. I probably shouldn't have stayed up and finished this, but what is sleep? I don't sleep anyway, so what's the difference? It's just been really bad, but anyway, I give this a 3.75 out of 5 stars, but honestly, I did not read a bad book in this video. All the books that I read, I enjoyed. Like, just because I only found 2 5-star reads doesn't mean I didn't like the other books that I read. So overall, this was a very successful reading vlog. I think I enjoyed the books way more in this vlog alone than I did in my last 2 September vlogs. I mean, I did find 2 5-star reads in the first vlog that I read books, because it was, this doesn't end until I find a 5-star read, And then I don't think I found that many 5 stars after that, but I again think I read better books after that this month than I did last month. So anyway, I did enjoy this quite a lot. I thought that the plot was intriguing. But I do think this was way too long for what it was. But also there was only like maybe a couple parts that I thought were a little slow, and I just felt like I'm like, what more can we actually talk about with it being 475 pages? But also, I think that it could have been edited down a lot more. I think this was like 100 pages too long. I think there were a little bits and pieces that weren't really necessary, but also like maybe some backstory about some of the other characters were kind of unnecessary because but also I did enjoy like I do think that we got to know the characters quite well, and I kind of felt the opposite about this book as I did about Immortal Dark, is that since you got to know the character, this is a very character driven story, that since we got to know them way better in here, it was a lot easier to distinct who was who, than in Immortal Dark. But again, I just think that this book is too long. It's like a freaking Bible, like a freaking brick with how long it is. But also, I think that this is a little bit too overhyped. I think that there are much better thrillers out there, but I also really do enjoy the way Liz Moore writes. She did keep me intrigued throughout most of the book, and it didn't feel like it was as long as I actually thought it was, because, or how long it actually is because it did read pretty fast because it was short chapters. You didn't really have to use that much brain power to get through this. But also I felt like there was long periods of time between other characters' stories where maybe this character was talked about or introduced in part 1, and then we wouldn't get their POV until all the way until like part 5. And I'm like, oh, that person was in this book. But also, like, if she talked about, like, for example, this one character named Judeta, I think that's how you would say her name, she would, like, talk about her for a little while, and then there would be, like, a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end of the chapter, and then it would move to, like, somebody else, like Alice, which was, like, the missing child's mother. And then we would get like a couple chapters about her, and then we would go back to somebody else, and then we would go back to Judy and what was going to happen to her at the end of her chapter that we read about before that. I had almost forgotten that we were supposed to find out what happened to that character in the next few chapters after that. So, but overall, I still think it was very interesting. I was a little bit let down by the ending though, so but it ended up being kind of predictable at the end. Like, it wasn't really as big of a mystery as you thought it was. Like, you pretty much figured it out. But I do think again that this is a little bit overhyped again, especially with how long it is, because usually thrillers aren't this long and don't get this much hype, because thrillers are usually like not over, like, I think the longest thriller I've read is like maybe 370 pages, but typically they're usually like 350 pages. So but this is definitely more of like a murder mystery, almost just a mystery as opposed to a thriller, because even though I was intrigued and I wanted to know what happened, and it was gripping me at some points, like with thrillers, like you're kind of on the edge of your seat and it's like so fast paced and you're like, oh my God, what's happening? And like all the twists that are happening, like the twists in this, they weren't really twists. Like you kind of like figured it out already, but I still think it was very good. Like, I don't regret reading this whatsoever. So overall, again, I had a really good reading time. So now we're going to rank all the books because I always do that at the end of these. But again, I did not dislike any of these books. I think they were all worth a read if you were interested in them. I think they were all good books. So I recommend all of them. So number 8 would have to be it. I did read 8 books. Yes, I did. Would have to be A Song to Drown Rivers. But again, I say that take that with a grain of salt. I do think it was a bit slow in the beginning, or quite a bit slow for a while, but I was still intrigued by the plot and the romance story. I just wish that the romance story was like fleshed out a little bit more. And also, like I said, the last like 50 pages were incredibly sad, but it's not like that lowered my rating. That actually boosted my rating, because then it got me to really care about the characters at the end. But I do think this is mislabeled as an epic novel. It is not. I feel like I said, it's an epic tragedy. And then number 7 would be the book I just read, The God of the Woods. I just explained my thoughts on that, so I'm not going to go through that again. But I still think I would recommend it if you were interested in it. Give it a go. And then number 6 would have to be, I think, Immortal Dark. Immortal Dark would be number 6 because I rated that 4 stars. I was still really intrigued by it, still really enjoyed the story. I just feel like we didn't have enough character differentiation between like the side characters. I was kind of getting, there was nothing too distinct about them for them to be memorable for me, but also to differentiate between the different characters. But I really did enjoy the 2 main characters of the book. And I would still recommend this if you were interested in it. I was just a little bit confused by some things in it, but it was still an enjoyable time. And then number 5, I think, would be Apprentice to the Villain. I did really enjoy this one, but I did not enjoy it as much as, oh wait, no, The Boyfriend would be number 5. Sorry. I did enjoy this more than Immortal Dark. I think I still gave that 4 stars as well. But I was actually thrilled by it, like, because Freida McFadden always writes, like, fast-paced thrillers. So I do think this was a little bit more edge of your seat. But I didn't get, like, that creeped out feeling that I usually do with some of her books. And out of the thrillers that I've read this month, I'm still not fulfilled with the thrillers that I've read because they haven't, like, gotten me there to, like, be like, what's going on? I need to know. I mean, I still needed to know what was going on and what was going to happen in this book because it still intrigued me, of course, but I don't think it's Freida McFadden's best work. And then number 4 would have to be Apprentice to the Villain. I still really enjoyed this one. I think this is such a fun series. I think I gave it a 4.25. Which I think was the same rating that I gave the first book. It was still a fun time. I still really enjoy Evie and Tristan. I think they're hysterical. And if you were thinking about reading this series, I definitely say go for it. It's just such a fun time. You don't really have to think about these books too much. They're kind of light fantasy, and they're not like a bunch of world building. It's just a good time. And then number 3 was definitely The X-Vows. I enjoyed this book so much. I'm not going to say the authors because I haven't done that, but I guess I'll say the authors for the top 3. So, The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the romance between them. I just didn't get the 5-star feeling with this book like I did with the first 2 books. But I gave it a 4.65 out of 5 stars. I still really, really loved this book a lot. And I'm glad that I found some really good romance reads in this video. And the I think they're both tied. I really love these books both for different reasons. So number 1 and 2, but really they're just tied, is Phantasma and Out on a Limb. I just enjoyed these books so much. Out on a Limb was so funny. I loved the romance. I just loved everything about that book. So that's why I gave it a 5 stars. It just was, it was so good. I loved it. And then Phantasma was just, oh, I loved Phantasma so much. I loved the romance. I loved the romantasy. I loved the smut. I loved the trials. I loved the fantasy. I loved everything about Phantasma. I fucking loved Blackwell. I also loved Ophelia as a main character. They just, oh, I loved their chemistry together. And it was just so good. So I, again, didn't rate anything under a 3.65. So I think I had a pretty good reading experience in this video. So I read these books over the course of like a little over 2 weeks. I started out a little slow, but still ended up reading 8 books. So at least, and I feel like reading vlogs kind of like make you stick to like the TBR that you put in front of yourself, to like hold yourself accountable to actually read those books. But also, like, since I gave myself such a wide range of different books to read, I feel like I didn't feel obligated to read these books. I really did want to read them and give you guys my thoughts on them. So it was just a really good time, and I'm glad that I completed this TBR list of these books. Because, again, they were all books I was really excited to read. I just didn't know what I was going to start with. The only one that I didn't know I was going to end up reading was A Song to Drown Rivers. But remember when I said in my TBR video that I'm like, oh, I don't really have that many October new releases, when meanwhile I read, like, I think 2 of them, which was Immortal Dark, but Immortal Dark came out at the end of September. So the only really, oh, and The Boyfriend. So I still read The Boyfriend, even though I said I wasn't sure if I was going to. But then I was feeling a tiny bit reading slumpish. So that's why I was like, let me start out the month with Freida McFadden, because no one gets me to read more than Freida McFadden. So yeah, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at CVW819. And check out my Poshmark at the same handle. I know I really haven't updated my Poshmark, but that's not what this video is about. Hopefully I will soon, but we'll see. Just have so much shit to list on it. It's like insane at this point. It's just like finding the time to do it. But again, really enjoyable reading experience, and I really liked all of these books. So I think I would recommend them all for different reasons based on what you're looking for. And also, let me know if you guys are interested in reading any of these books. So hope you guys have a good day. Keep reading. Bye.